he be the same fighter? Will he still have that rage, that fire in his eyes? Will he still strike fear in the hearts of his opponents? Will he be the Mike Tyson of old? Or will he be better? The return of Mike Tyson. Tyson versus McNeely, Saturday, August 19th, live on pay-per-view.
From this Saturday night, Mike Tyson will involve himself in a prize fight for the first time in 50 months when he takes on a regional club fighter by the name of Peter McNeely. The fight, such that it is expected to be nothing more than a coming-out party for one of boxing's most charismatic personalities. Since his release from prison, by design, Tyson has been kept out of the limelight. In fact, until this afternoon, Tyson has not allowed cameras other than his own to record any of his workouts, which is what makes this video all the more intriguing. His strength and conditioning coach, a fellow named Carlos Blackwell, says Tyson has cut his body fat down by 17%, weighs 222 now, should weigh 220 on fight night. Tyson, who is now 29 years old, looks far more chiseled than he ever did in his heyday. Last fought in June of 1991 when he won a unanimous decision over Donovan Razor Roddick. Go ahead over the next 30 minutes. Mike Tyson in his first public workout as he prepares for his first fist fight in 4 years.
Charlie, 2 weeks from Saturday, Mike Tyson has his first fight in 4 years. So far, he's been about as animated and vocal as that still over my shoulder. As Tyson continues camp in Las Vegas to prepare for Peter McNeely, the former champ staged his first public workout since his spring prison release. And it was impressive. He didn't get in the ring, but Tyson's still not talking, and although the cameras have been banned from his compound in Ohio, he clearly has been working out. Looking chiseled, fit, and focused, Tyson is at 222 pounds, only a couple of pounds below his targeted fight weight for McNeely, just 17 days away.
As you know, there are 3 uses of the word dude. There's dude, how's it going? There's dude, you messed up. And then there's the Peter McNeely use. Dude, is Mike Tyson going to pummel me? Paper dude and ringside viewers will find out August 19th as Tyson begins his comeback against the lightly regarded McNeely.
You haven't been in a real fight in about 4 years. So are you concerned how your body's going to react to the punishment?
Well, I haven't been hit too much when I was fighting either.
Oh.
I'm coming for some respect. I'm in shape. I'm a warrior. I'm coming to rumble. And that's true, I have predicted a knockout. When I wrapped Mike Tyson in a cocoon of horror, he'll be singing with our friends down at the House of Blues.
The horror. Peter McNeely, 36-1. He didn't start his pro career until August of '91, 2 months after Tyson's last fight. McNeely's knocked out 21 humans in the first round, and he's been on Letterman.
You've waited 4 years for this. The fighter of the decade. The boxing event of the year. On August 19th, guess who's back? The return of Mike Tyson. Tyson versus McNeely, Saturday, August 19th, live on pay-per-view.
Call the cable system and order the fight before Friday and save.
Shielded by bodyguards and wearing the white kufi of his newfound Muslim faith, Mike Tyson emerged from 1,095 days of prison to the eyes of the world.
There's been a lot of speculation about my plan, and here they are. I will fight again, and I want to confirm John Horn and Rory Holloway as my managers.
You know, he got a clear picture of what's going on out here before he got out here.
And more than anything, I think Mike is appreciative of the fans and the people that stuck behind him through this whole ordeal.
I also will confirm that Don King will continue to promote my fight.
A credible situation comes where a fighter comes like a Mike Tyson that brings new enthusiasm, new excitement to the ring. So they've all been awaiting his return. Now he's out here. All the prognostication, speculation now will become reality.
I don't allow the hype to affect me anymore. I just want to do well. My main objective is to do well.
Here in the farmlands of northern Ohio, in this secluded training camp, Mike Tyson is preparing for his return to the ring against Hurricane Peter McNeely. Hi, I'm Steve Albert. It's been only 4 months since Tyson was released from an Indiana State penitentiary. But as he prepares for this first step on the road back to the ring, and back, he hopes, to the heavyweight championship of the world, the public's interest and the media's fascination with Tyson has turned his every public appearance into a bewildering circus of confusion, commotion, and excitement.
Tyson himself said nothing publicly, bodyguards shielding him from view at every stop. He only released this statement, saying he was happy to be going home.
I just deal with life the way it's thrown at me. You know what I mean? I want to be a private person, but how am I going to really be private?
Allow me to introduce a young man who cares about his people, one of the greatest fighters that ever lived, and now is going back to recapture the heavyweight crown. Our son, our brother, our friend, Mike Tyson, you know, our future, Mike Tyson.
Good morning, everyone. Pleasure being here. I'm just happy to be here. I'm a little nervous, but I look forward to the fight, and I look forward to putting on a good show. So whatever is thrown at me, I just handle it and take it.
We want these young people to know, if you fall down or knock down, you don't have to lay down, get back up, and keep on going.
And the fact that there's powers to be that don't want you out here, that don't want me to relate to you, and I just knew we beat them anyway with guards on our side. To be honest, how am I going to be private? If I go to a club, it's in the paper. If I buy a car, it's in the paper. If I kiss my girlfriend, it's in the paper. So really, how am I going to be private?
How's Mike reacting to all the media attention, if you like, being back in the spotlight?
Never left. Never left. He's been watching you guys very closely out there. As a matter of fact, for the first time, he's been able to sit back and really watch what's going on around him. You know, before he was living in the fray every day. It's hard to look at things when you're right in the middle of the mix.
I mean, I've been accustomed for at least 12 years, 11 years of this. But, you know, I mean, some people enjoy their privacy.
I know you've had a lot of time to think, obviously, in the last 4 years. How would you like to write Chapter 2 for Mike Tyson?
Well, I'm not Nostradamus or anybody, but I just want to do well, you know what I mean? I have things that I want to accomplish in my life as a person, but as far as my career, I want to do well.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mike Tyson, Mr. Don King, and other distinguished guests. Thank you, Mike, for coming to our Children's Foundation. I really and truly believe that you will become a positive role model, and may God bless you as you go out into this world to begin your fighting career once again as a champion. It really comes from my heart. By me helping you, that means nothing, me giving you money or anything, because you're all winners right here, and you can accomplish anything you want. We have these cameras here, and we have the publicity here, and I just want you to know I did it from my heart and not for these people. Thank you very much. I don't give anything. I just give the most I can give. Eventually I'll be old and dead and I won't have to worry about what anybody say or think about me.
There are those who take more than just a sporting interest in Mike Tyson. What Mike Tyson? But shall we penalize Tyson?
Will he be the Mike Tyson that everyone thinks he is?
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson. 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 Period.
I don't know. I'm just a man.
Now, far from the pressures and distractions of stardom, Tyson has sequestered himself in this isolated environment to prepare for what many believe is the most important fight of his career. Yet despite Tyson's reluctance for publicity and insistence on privacy, we were allowed onto the grounds and into his training camp. That's coming up next on Tyson versus McNeely, The Road Back. Hello again, I'm Steve Albert, and welcome back to Tyson versus McNeely, The Road Back. It has been over 4 years since former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson won his last fight, a convincing 12-round decision over the hard-hitting and resilient Razor Ruddock. But now, here in these tranquil farmlands of northern Ohio, as he prepares for his long-awaited comeback, he is eager to return to the ring and to his beloved sport of boxing.
I think fighting is the best sport in the history of the world. And I never thought I wanted to do anything else. I just never really actually wanted to do anything else. Some people have the desire to fight, but don't have the desire to train, but the two come hand in hand. You can't do one without the other.
Now, after his long and forced layoff, Tyson is back in the gym, training diligently. Working out religiously.
Right now he's working on new things, he's working on old things. He's just trying to get it all back together, almost like a learning process again. Psychologically, it just was a matter of just getting his confidence back, getting back in the ring, not being able to throw a punch at someone for 4 years, not being able to fight someone with hand-to-hand combat for 4 years. So I believe it is a mental factor involved. You know, it's kind of taking confidence. Do I still got the power? Do I still got the speed? You know what I mean? But to me, to us, all the questions have been answered.
Nice snap. That's because you shifted your weight into it that time. Good.
Now, Mike and I grew up in the Catskills with the legendary trainer Cus D'Amato.
Spring it.
And what Cus taught was that as you throw a punch, you're actually covered or moving. So you're actually suckering the other guy into throwing a punch a lot of times. It's both offensive and defensive.
Obviously, they wanted someone that could bring Mike back after such a layoff. And when I, of course, met him, he was up about, I guess, 240, 242. And over the period of training now, and with proper diet and nutrition, of course, he's down to about his fight weight, which is about 224, 225. And if you look at him, his muscularity is far more superb than it's ever been.
I don't know if I enjoy it. You just do it. You do it. Sometimes you get tired, your arms get a little tight, but you just know it fades as time goes on. You just continue to do it. My advantage is that I'm accustomed to it. I started from scratch and I put in my dues, and I know when I feel that pain, I know it's just going to pass in a matter of time. I think my favorite part of the whole job is the day of the fight when Mike said, coming down the stairs, let's go. Go on to the ring. That's the favorite part. You know, because you know you did everything you're supposed to do. You know, you got your miles in, you got your rounds in. That's the greatest feeling in the world. Nothing like it in the world.
Despite the rigorous workout schedule and vigorous training, some wonder if Tyson can regain the form, the fire, and the ferocity that made him one of the greatest fighters of our generation. And they ask, will he be the one to rejuvenate the sport and replenish the public's interest in the heavyweight division?
I think that I'm an ace in the hole when it comes to the heavyweight division because I believe I'm the best fighter. You know, but there's good fighters out there, and I don't know why they don't unify the titles. If they truly believe they're the best, they all say that they're the best. But if you truly believe you're the best, you should be willing to fight everybody. You can't truly believe in your heart you're the best and avoid fighting people.
But in order for Tyson to once again win the title and unify the heavyweight division, he must now, at the age of 29, re-enter the ring and beat the very determined Peter McNeely.
I just feel more relaxed and more seasoned as a professional, and I'm just looking forward to, it's a little nerve-wracking, but I'm hungry, and I'm looking forward to entering the ring.
And his fans from Harlem to Hollywood are also looking forward to his entrance into the ring and his efforts to climb back to the top of boxing's most glamorous division.
I just like to get it on. I'm just going to win dramatically.
In order for Tyson to win the fight dramatically and successfully accomplish his first step on the road back, he must beat a fighter who has nothing to lose and everything to win. We'll meet him when we return to Tyson versus McNeely, the road back. Halfway across the country from these farmlands here in Orwell, Ohio, another fighter trains for this bout just as diligently, just as rigorously as Tyson. He is, of course, the enigmatic Peter McNeely. While a mystery to everyone but the most hardcore boxing fan, the very confident McNeely, with his curious boxing background, is now being thrust under the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny. Who is he, and why does he deserve this opportunity? To find out, we travel to his home in an affluent suburb of Boston, Massachusetts.
I'm a lot of things that a lot of today's typical fighters are not. I'm a white, college-educated kid from a suburban, upper-middle-class, wealthy community.
Despite his plush surroundings, McNeely was born into a very tough and very successful boxing family.
I grew up in a tough family, and you know, being a third-generation fighter, I was always after the dream of becoming a pro fighter. I fed the faith and starved the doubt for so long that I always knew that fate and destiny would get me to this point.
McNeely's grandfather was a national amateur champion and a member of the 1928 Olympic team. And his father, a well-respected pro who once fought Floyd Patterson for the heavyweight title.
I was kind of feeling sorry for him at the time, because when I beat him, what he was going to do after that, because boxing was his whole life. I really, you know, felt kind of sorry for the guy. Of course, it didn't turn out that way. His speed and experience was just unbelievable. I was down 13 times. He was down once.
Despite his father's setback, McNeely grew up wanting to be a fighter.
When I crawled up in the attic between the ages of, say, 5 and 7 and found my dad on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And I knew, you know, I knew right from that moment of what I was going to be in life.
After attending Bridgewater State College, majoring in political science rather than the sweet science, McNeely entered the rough and tumble world of New England boxing, fighting in local racetracks, armories, and dog tracks.
Most all of my fights, I was keeping tickets ahead of time. You know, I had to go out and do my own promotions. I had to go out and hang my own posters, sell my own tickets, do radio interviews to pump up these fights, to sell the tickets.
But fighting 37 times in 44 months, Hurricane McNeely has become one of boxing's busiest heavyweights, using his aggressive whirlwind style to storm through his opposition, winning 36 fights, 30 by knockout, 20 of them in the first round.
I like to describe my style as controlled fury, controlled brawling, technical brawling. I find myself right at home on the inside there with banging to the body and to the head.
Now, with the announcement of his fight with Mike Tyson, McNeely no longer has to sell his own tickets or hang his own posters. But under the bright, unrelenting glare of the world media, he is bewildered by those who claim he is an easy opponent for the former champ.
How am I an easy opponent with a 36-1 record, with 30 knockouts, ranked number 9 in the world? I think they picked a very tough opponent, but they don't realize how tough I am. He hasn't done anything in his layoff, and I've had 37 pro fights, so I'm pretty sharp right now, and I think he's the one with the doubts in his head and confidence problems, and he's the one that's got something to prove, not me. I'm gonna go right at him, I'm gonna crash right into him, and we're gonna go nose to nose, head to head, mano a mano, and we're gonna bang each other in the head and body. Big uppercuts, body shots, left hooks. I've always been a winner. I've always been taught to be a winner. And I'm going to come to this fight a winner.
Coming up next, final words and parting shots on Tyson versus McNeely, the road back. Welcome back to Tyson versus McNeely, the road back. Tyson was the youngest fighter to win a World Heavyweight Championship and the last to unify the title. And now, after a 4-year layoff, he returns to the ring, eager to reclaim former glories and accomplish new goals. It is an event no boxing fan or sports fan should miss.
I still sometimes have the vigorous, ferocious feeling to attack. And I enjoy that. And I guess just sometimes you just want that competition. And when you feel right, you just, yeah, come on, bring that guy. I want to see, even though you just win, lose, you say, I just want to see what I got to go against this guy. See, can I do it?
Yet, Peter McNeely has become the first hurdle in Tyson's comeback road. Seemingly unfazed by all of the hoopla surrounding this fight and unintimidated by Tyson's reputation, McNeely wants to prove to the world and to himself he is a worthy opponent for the former champion.
I see me really hitting him hard in that first round with these little gloves on. We're going to see what's going on. We're going to see what I'm all about. We're going to see what he's all about from the get-go. And that's what's going to happen on August 19th. We're both going to be right in each other's face. Nobody's going to have to look for either one.
That's why I want to get someone that's capable and qualified, that's a bully-like character as Peter McNeely. A scientific boxer, this one and that one would not make the day. A guy that's going in there to brawl, that's going to really bring out the essence, vintage Mike Tyson. So you, the viewer, will get an opportunity this time to get a great show.
Don't miss Mike Tyson's long-awaited return to the ring as he takes on Hurricane Peter McNeely. Plus, on that card, you'll see 3 more bouts, each a world championship fight. In the heavyweight division, the recently crowned WBA champion, Bruce Seldon, will be making his first title defense against number 4 ranked contender, Joe Hipp. In the middleweight division, hard-hitting 3-time world champion Julian Jackson will be defending his newly won WBC title against knockout artist Quincy Taylor. And in the 135-pound weight class, one of boxing's best, undefeated Miguel Angel Gonzalez will be making his 10th title defense against Lamar Murphy. It's Tyson versus McNeely, plus 3 world title bouts, and you can see it live Saturday, August 19th on pay-per-view. I'm Steve Albert, and thanks for watching this special edition of the Showtime Championship Boxing Report.
Thank you, Jimmy. Other country club news, the most intriguing bet in Vegas has gone beyond who's going to win Mike Tyson's comeback fight. It's become the over-under on Pete McNeely staying awake. With the fight less than a week away now, the human soundbite McNeely has taken to boosting his confidence by only sparring 4-foot opponents. That's nice. There have been rumors of a rib injury on Mike Tyson. McNeely says injury or no injury, the cocoon is ready.
I don't care what's the matter with Mike Tyson, physically, psychologically, mentally. I don't care. I'm just worrying about Peter McNeely, and I'm coming here to kick butt. I'm the people's champion. I don't turn down nothing but my collar. I take everything I take on in the fight game head on. I take on all questions. I take on all comers.
Hear more from Peter McNeely and watch the two fighters stare each other down, most likely in their underwear. That can only mean the weigh-in. You can see it live right here on ESPN on the 6:30 Sports Center this Thursday. Our wall-to-wall coverage from Las Vegas begins Tuesday on that very same show.
Saturday night's fight in Vegas between Mike Tyson and Peter McNeely is expected to be a one-sided affair. It certainly has been that way leading up to the bout. The purse is weighted heavily towards Tyson. Could be $25 million for Mike. Will be $540,000 for Peter. All the focus has been on Tyson. All the hyping is done by McNeely. The final pre-fight news conference was held today, and some of it even rhymed.
I'm Hurricane Peter McNeely from Medfield, Mass. On Saturday night, watch me kick Tyson. But if you haven't made your pay-per-view arrangements yet, make them soon. Because remember what happens when I wrap you in my cocoon.
Hello, I bear witness there's only one God, and Prophet Muhammad, may peace be on to him, is the prophet of God. I'm just happy to be here. Everybody's made their statements. Mr. McNeely had a cute statement. I'm just ready to fight. Thank you, everyone, for your support.
Mike, can you describe to us what you think will happen in this fight Saturday night?
I'm going to knock Peter McNeely out.
Can you tell us a bit more about the fight? Perhaps, I know you don't give prediction on rounds, but can you describe a little bit of the work that you'll do in the ring before disposing of it?
Well, you come and watch. I'm sure you'll find it very stimulating.
We look forward to the stimulating action. We'll have live coverage of the Tyson McNeely weigh-in tomorrow night here on SportsCenter, beginning at 6:30 Eastern. More on Iron Mike and his relationship with that walking news conference, Don King, later in this SportsCenter.
SportsCenter is brought to you by Office Depot, taking care of business with guaranteed low prices on thousands of brand name office supplies. By McDonald's, have you had your break today? And by Heineken, America's #1 imported beer.
Welcome back to SportsCenter. No one knows how Mike Tyson will look Saturday night against Peter McNeely. Only one workout has been open to the media, and on that occasion, he didn't spar.
We're about to get another look at Iron Mike as both fighters prepare to step on the scales for the weigh-in. We go live to Las Vegas, where Charlie Steiner, how quickly we forget, is standing by. Charlie?
Robin, you are looking live at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, where in 48 hours, Mike Tyson will set foot into the ring for the first time in 4 years and 2 months. It's been 50 months since he last fought, when he won a decision from Donovan Razor Ruddock, weighed 216 pounds that day. Now we'll find out what he weighs for Saturday night's fight with Peter McNeely. Let the weigh-in begin. We'll go down to the ring and Al Bernstein. Al?
Thank you, Charlie. We welcome the people across America, as well as the people here at the MGM Grand Garden, to the moment that has finally come, the weigh-in of the fight between Mike Tyson and Peter McNeely. We will begin with the weighing in of 36-1 Peter McNeely. Jimmy Lennon Jr. will give you the weights.
And up to the scale, ladies and gentlemen, here is the number 7th ranked heavyweight in the world. 224 pounds. 224 pounds for Hurricane Peter McNeely.
And next up to the scale, the gentleman who is the former heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson.
Former heavyweight champion of the world. 220 pounds even.
And so Mike Tyson comes in at 220, and we will have a chance to share a moment or two with Mike and perhaps ask him a question or two about how he feels as he has his first weigh-in in quite some time. As soon as he's prepared, we'll have a chance to chat with him in just a moment. He came in at 220, Peter McNeely at 224, just a few pounds over the former champion. And as Mike gets not only his shoes on, but tries to get himself back to where he wants to be, we're going to chat with him in just a moment or two. Mike, well, we're not going to chat with Mike Tyson because he is going to leave. So perhaps we'll have a chance to chat with Peter McNeely. Let's go back to Charlie for a moment.
Well, Mike Tyson, who has been fairly well sequestered from the media, has elected, at least for the moment, to ignore Al Bernstein, and it has been a fairly consistent policy of Mike Tyson throughout the week. He had one press conference, and that was yesterday. It was a fairly cantankerous affair, in fact, and so apparently Mike Tyson will not be talking to us. Instead, he is heading back to his condominium here in Las Vegas as he gets ready for Saturday night's fight. Let's take a quick look at the tail of the tape. Mike Tyson will weigh 220 pounds. Tyson, the heaviest he's ever been was 221, and that was for the Tony Tucker fight back in 1987 and for the Trevor Berbick fight in which he first won the title back in 1986. He weighed 216 against Razor Ruddock. For Peter McNeely, he weighs 224 pounds and will have a 6-inch reach advantage. We will be back. Well, first we're going to go back down to the ring. Peter McNeely is standing by with Al Bernstein. Al?
We are here with Peter McNeely, who comes into this fight at 224 pounds. And is that, in fact, the weight you were looking for, Peter?
Whatever weight I am is whatever weight I am, baby. I'm here and I'm ready to fight.
You seem as loose as you've been leading up to this fight. The moment doesn't seem to be affecting you at all.
Hey, this is what I've been dreaming of my whole life. Been mentally preparing for this since the time I was 7 years old. When I found my daddy on the cover of Ring magazine and Sports Illustrated, I knew exactly what I was going to be in life, and I knew I was going to be here someday.
Good luck to you, Peter.
Thank you.
Peter McNeely,
I'm coming at you!
A very vociferous Peter McNeely. Let's go back to Charlie.
All right, Al. Al will be joining us a little bit later on in this edition of Sports Center, and we will analyze Mike Tyson, the fighter, what we can realistically expect to see in the ring on Saturday night. For now, Charlie Steiner reporting live from the MGM Grand Garden in Las Vegas, sending it back to Sports Center. Steve?
Before we show you pictures of the weigh-in, get a load of the records of some of Peter McNeely's opponents. 0-10-1, 15-40-1, 14-67-2. McNeely fought one pug who hadn't been in the ring for 15 years. It hasn't been quite that long for Mike Tyson, who looks plenty fit to put the challenger away quickly come Saturday night. Now for Peter McNeely's last semi-lucid public moment.
And up on the scale, ladies and gentlemen, here is the number 7th ranked heavyweight in the world. 224 pounds. 224 pounds for Hurricane Peter McNeely. Former heavyweight champion of the world. 220 pounds even.
McNeely has spent less time in prison than Tyson. That's about the only category in which he is more impressive than the one-time heavyweight champion. The body stats mean little unless you're trying to calculate the physics equation of just how hard McNeely will hit the mat.
Welcome back to the MGM Grand, where earlier in the hour, Mike Tyson stepped on the scale for the first time in 4 years and 2 months and weighed in at 220 pounds. Peter McNeely weighed in at 224. I'm Charlie Steiner, along with Al Bernstein. Al, you had a chance to talk to at least one of the fighters, and Peter McNeely, and it's remarkable how unfazed he is about the biggest moment of his career.
Well, he's either a spectacular actor or he sincerely is not affected by the moment. He was enjoying it up there, and you know, sometimes when you're right next to somebody, when you're really close to them and you can observe them, you can see if there's a difference in somebody's behavior or personality. There was none. He's the same fun-loving, excited, animated guy he's been throughout this pre-fight period.
And then again, there's Mike Tyson, who seemed to leave you at the altar, pal.
Oh, you know what? I mean, I got married on June 4th. Thank God she showed up, because Mike definitely stiffed me. I saw it when I got up on that podium. I said, "Hi, Mike." He didn't respond. I had a feeling that he didn't want to talk to anybody up there. He wasn't even talking to Jose Suleiman in a very nice way up there. So Mike Tyson was very intense. But one thing we do anticipate, Mike will show up for the fight. And here's a look at something of what we expect to see in the ring for Mike Tyson.
I think if he puts his mind to it, he can get it back.
Tyson trained in secret until August 2nd. On that day, he emerged looking more muscular than ever. He had maintained his conditioning in prison through calisthenics, basketball, and jogging. But he was not allowed to spar, use a heavy bag, or work on his boxing skills. He now attempts to regain those abilities while training by committee.
They're using teams of guys that are working with him. You know what I mean? It's just like, I love it when I see the Cleveland Indians where they're playing baseball right now. They've never, you know, but it didn't come from one guy. You know, they got a first base coach, they got a hitting coach, they got a pitching coach. I mean, teamwork, man.
Do you think, in effect, he's still just training himself?
I think, sure, definitely. How can you have three, how can you take, you got three different personalities. They all can be good guys, they all can be great trainers. Now, you're going to have three different theories. It's only going to have, you know, the only plus of it is going to be some kind of confusion. So, yeah, Mike's probably still training himself.
When Mike Tyson was at his peak, these were the building blocks of his success. Good head movement, repeated use of the jab, and rapid combinations. This gym in Catskill, New York, is where Mike Tyson learned his boxing skills. It's where Cus D'Amato taught him a very specific kind of boxing style that would take him to the World Heavyweight Championship. But many believe that well before Mike went to prison, that style was crumbling.
I didn't see the jab in the Bruno fight. I don't care if he only threw 10 jabs when he was at his best, maybe 15 around. They were effective jabs. That was very badly missed when it was gone. He was looking now to land one punch.
2 fights later came Tyson's only pro loss to Buster Douglas. Again, specific punches were absent, this time along with any evidence of focus and preparation.
He didn't throw any punches because he figured, all right, well, I'll maybe look at this guy in a bad way and he'll fall down. And when that didn't happen, and the other guy, Douglas, was in pretty good shape, and he was very nervous, but he let a scared fighter get brave is what he did. And so Douglas said, all right, well, you don't want to throw, I'm going to start throwing. So he started throwing, started connecting.
Though he won his ensuing fights, Tyson continued to come out slower and less focused. It wasn't so much that his abilities had diminished, it was that he seemed unable to marshal his skills.
You have to have been practicing discipline. You have to be conditioned in that way. To me, he lost all his training and conditioning in that area by the way he was living, by having everyone around him tell him what he wanted to hear, and not having to face things that were difficult.
Since 1988, when Don King took control of Team Tyson, there's been no trainer who has had the impact or autonomy of D'Amato or Rooney. For the most part, Tyson marches to the beat of his own drummer.
So if you don't have someone you can trust in, sometimes you're lost. The advantage of having a trainer is that he can see things that you can't see. And then you go to the corner, he can explain certain things to you. And therefore, you can go out there and look for various different things, and that makes you a better fighter.
However, Tyson's training and preparation may be a moot point when he faces Peter McNeely, a journeyman fighter. Chances are this fight will not allow boxing observers to evaluate whether the vintage Tyson skills remain.
You got to see him against somebody who can say, wait a minute, you're not going to hit me because I'm going to hit you, or you're not going to, and not only going to hit you, but I am going to hurt you.
He was champion. He punches harder than anyone around. He punches faster than any heavyweight around. So he has the physical tools. Now we have to deal with his brain.
I don't think no human can be the same after 3 years or 6 years or anything, just especially laying off. We naturally get older. I have about 6 gray hairs in my head now, where a few years ago I had just 1. So naturally we never can be like we used to be.
Tyson's comeback is reminiscent of when Muhammad Ali returned to the ring at the same age after nearly the same amount of time off. But there are stark differences.
You look at the people that Ali fought after his exile, who were waiting for him, you know, just to come back. He goes and he fights Jerry Corey, who could punch like hell. Then he's got to fight Oscar Bonavino, who damn near knocked Joe Frazier out of the ring. And he's got to come back after that and fight Joe Frazier. Unbelievable.
An older Ali had to change his style after his layoff. He could no longer rely on his dazzling foot speed as an assurance of victory. Instead, he unveiled the granite chin and clever ploys like the rope-a-dope. No such adaptations are likely for Tyson and may not be necessary. As an aggressive, straight-ahead fighter, his mission should be to rediscover and perfect the earlier style that took him to the heavyweight championship of the world. If there's one thing that piece shows us, it's just how speculative everything is that we're saying about this fight at this point. None of us really are absolutely sure what we're going to see from Mike Tyson, especially in this first fight, Charlie.
Al and I will be joining you immediately after the fight, no matter how speculative it may be. As soon as the fight is over, come on over to ESPN. John Saraceno will be joining us as well. For now, for Al Bernstein, this is Charlie Steiner at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, sending it back to SportsCenter.
Well, Mike, if Peter McNeely only suffers a broken jaw tomorrow, he should consider himself a lucky man. Mike Tyson has been all business as he prepares to return to the ring for the first time in 4 years. It's not a question of whether or not McNeely can win, but whether he can last a round with Iron Mike. Charlie Steiner has the latest from Las Vegas.
This is the land of the long shots, the MGM Sportsbook, where they come to wager on Saturday night's Mike Tyson-Peter McNeely fight, where Peter McNeely is an overwhelming underdog. That didn't stop at least a couple of bettors who came here and put down $10,000 at 20-1 that McNeely could pull off the upset. Another bettor put $25,000 on Mike Tyson, which means if Tyson wins as expected, the bettor would get $1,000 back. It's not a matter of who's going to win this fight, according to the scribes who are covering this event. It's just a matter of how long will it take.
I wouldn't put it on the board. I would not put it on the board because you could not give odds that are really indicative of the chances this guy has to win. And I'm talking about McNeely. I mean, what could you put it at? 200-1, 300-1,
Based on the fact that theoretically Tyson could stumble over a ring rope coming into the ring, hit his head, anything like that, have diarrhea, something could happen. 500-1.
Something about 1,000,000 to 1. Peter McNeely can't box. He can't move. He can't punch. And he can't take a punch.
I'll be generous to McNeely, and maybe it'll go to round 2.
Well, it could last as much as 2 rounds, and I think the question is not so much of the last, but how soon before the fight starts will Peter actually lose the fight?
I think the fight will end within 2 minutes.
I would guess anywhere between 10 and 20 seconds.
Peter McNeely has been picked as carefully as I pick a melon in the supermarket, all right? He's going to come running right out there and want to slug with Tyson. That's exactly what Tyson wants.
So if he comes out aggressive and he tries to actually win this fight, maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds. If he does a little different than that, maybe 90, 100, 120 seconds.
And there ought to be a bet here which is going to last longer, the fight or the Star Spangled Banner.
I'm sorry. You know, I like McNeely. He's a nice kid, but I don't think he can win a hockey fight. He's certainly not going to win this one.
Mike Tyson would have to be a quadriplegic to lose to Peter McNeely. Then it'd be 8-5 Tyson.
So it goes without saying there is nobody in the press room who gives Peter McNeely much of a shot, which goes to the point that this is really not a fight on Saturday night as much as it is an event. Coming up later, Al Bernstein will spend some time with Peter McNeely, a lounge act in boxing for low these many years, finally with an opportunity to play the big room. For now, Charlie Steiner, ESPN at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, sending it back to SportsCenter.
SportsCenter back with you a little more than 24 hours before the most anticipated comeback since Muhammad Ali stepped into the ring in 1970. Back then, Jerry Quarry couldn't answer the bell for the 4th. Few expect Mike Tyson's foe, Peter McNeely, to make it that far. Tyson used to be the heavyweight division's destroyer. McNeely racked up his wins by taking down a laundry list of no-names. The only comparison that holds any significance is McNeely's height and reach advantage, which, in light of the mismatch, means little. So is the only suspense waiting to see how badly Mike Tyson will beat up on Peter McNeely? Will Iron Mike take it a few extra rounds for experience or dispose of the Hurricane like he did Michael Spinks? Precisely 91 seconds. Nick Mackay tosses out the height, weight, reach, and record in favor of a more entertaining intangible.
Mike Tyson's back, ready to electrify the heavyweight division and unify the belt in the eyes of all 793,000 sanctioning bodies. And his first hurdle to glory, Hurricane Peter McNeely, a fighter who makes Jerry Cooney look like Bluto, a slab of meat straight out of Requiem for a heavyweight. But is it that simple? Tyson, McNeely, let's see how they stack up at the tail of the tape. Record, Tyson 41-1, McNeely 36-1, and a draw against Mrs. Jeff Tarango.
This guy deserves a lesson at some point. Deserve a lesson, deserve a lesson, deserve a lesson.
Advantage Tyson. Reach, McNeely 77 inches. Tyson 71 inches, 72 when reaching for Mentos Freshmaker. Advantage McNeely. our team. Tyson, trainer, cutman. McNeely, trainer, cutman, county coroner. Tyson. Pet names for boxing. Tyson, the sweet science. McNeely, brains begone.
When I wrap Mike Tyson in a cocoon of horror.
Manage McNeely, you gotta hand it to a guy with a sense of humor. Congrats, Pete. Pete. Hello. Biggest challenge in the ring, McNeely staying upright for a single round. Tyson keeping Don King from rifling through his wallet. Advantage push. Narrowly escaped, McNeely, oblivion. Tyson, the world's most dangerous showers. Advantage push, there are no winners here. So there you have it. It's so simple when you break things down scientifically. In a series of illegal rabbit punches to the back of the head, advantage goes to Mike Tyson. Keep your head up, Hurricane. Loser gets to fight Mickey Rourke. Until next time, I'm Nick Bakay reminding you that numbers never lie.
The experts are right. Peter McNeely will be hurting much worse than those draft picks come Saturday night in Las Vegas. Mike Tyson's designated victim enters the scheduled 10-rounder as a huge underdog. McNeely says people underestimate him, although his press conference antics have transformed him from a fighter who talks with his fists to a fighter who talks and talks and talks. On the other hand, Tyson, with 4 years away from the game, has kept his comments to a minimum. As for those experts...
Peter McNeely can't box, he can't move, he can't punch, and he can't take a punch.
I'll be generous to McNeely, and maybe it'll go to round 2.
Well, it could last as much as 2 rounds. And I think the question is not so much of the last, but how soon before the fight starts will Peter actually lose the fight?
He's going to come running right out there and want to slug with Tyson. That's exactly what Tyson wanted.
And there ought to be a bet here which is going to last longer, the fight or the Star-Spangled Banner. I think the fight will end within 2 minutes.
If you want to get your money's worth, you'll have to check out ESPN immediately following the fight. Chances are the post-bout analysis will last longer than the fight itself.
The crowds descend upon the MGM Grand here in Las Vegas for Saturday night's comeback of Mike Tyson against Peter McNeely. Clearly, Tyson is the allure. He's got to fight somebody, and that somebody is McNeely. But who is he? Finally, after years of anonymity, fighting in New England, McNeely gets a chance to play the big room. That's our cover story tonight, reported by Al Bernstein.
Usually when you perform for the first time in Las Vegas, you open in the smaller venues. But not Peter McNeely. He's taking his act straight to the big room.
It's definitely a huge step, and I think that I'm ready, though, and I think I'm ready to take it on face first. I'm coming at you, baby! I'm coming at you!
I believe that Mike Tyson's going to be in real trouble that night. Peter McNeely will go right after him. And if that takes place, this will be called the MGM McNeely.
I matched Tyson for the best against the best for the time frame of what he's doing. Peter McNeely is the best out there, got an impeccable record, 36-1, 30 knockouts, 21 knockouts in the first round.
It's true 26-year-old Peter McNeely enters the limelight 4-0 in '95 and having won his last 8 fights by first-round knockout. But he's fought only around his hometown, and the opponents he has faced have a combined record of 206 wins, 448 losses, and 22 draws.
I'm fighting the same guys that the Larry Donalds and Jeremy Williamses and Andrew Galata, Dan Kuda, Shannon Briggs. They're all fighting the same guys I fought. I did it all in the Boston area, under the microscope. Tyson!
McNeely will earn close to $750,000 when he faces Tyson. That's over 70 times what he earned on St. Patrick's Day against Danny Wofford, his previous highest payday. Odds makers have McNeely as a heavy underdog, but nevertheless, McNeely exudes confidence.
That's true, I have predicted a knockout. When I wrap Mike Tyson in a cocoon of horror.
If you knock the guy out, or even if you don't, please come back and we'll talk more about it.
I would love to.
All right, and in the meantime, do me a favor, try to work on your confidence a little bit.
It's just the rest of the boxing world that expects McNeely to bomb.
I think he will be intimidated, you know, by Tyson. Again, this is his first big fight. And I think Tyson's going to jump right on him and get him out of there.
If he comes out there and he's winging shots, that's his only press.
He doesn't do a job of getting away from punches. He doesn't do a good job of delivering punches. He doesn't have power.
There's no question this is a huge step up for McNeely. He's never seen what he'll face against Tyson. He's like a batter who has faced college pitching and now goes up against major leaguers. But this scenario has been acted out before in the McNeely family.
I don't want to say my dad hid what he did for me, but he never really shed light of what he did. I found out on my own when I crawled up into the attic one day when I was about 7 years old, 6, 7 years old, found my dad on the cover of his fight program from the title fight with Patterson, on the cover of Ring magazine and on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And that was where the dream began for me.
And he has something now that I once tasted. It's that fire in your belly that you've got your chance.
Tom McNeely challenged Floyd Patterson for the heavyweight championship in 1961, but hit the canvas 13 times in losing. His father, Tom McNeely Sr., was on the 1928 Olympic team and was New England light heavyweight champion. Now the younger McNeely tries to fulfill the family dream in a town where long shots have been known to come through. Peter McNeely hopes to become more than just a footnote and take his place on the list of boxing's heavyweight Cinderella stories.
I think that after this fight, people are going to say that this kid is for real. We sold him short. And a year from now, I hope to be knocking on the door of a heavyweight championship.
Peter McNeely's quest may seem a little more like the impossible dream, and that may well be what it is. But as I sit here in the Starlight Theater, I'm reminded that even Wayne Newton started out in these smaller venues. He played the big rooms, didn't he?
Saturday night, we'll find out whether or not Peter McNeely is indeed a ready-for-primetime player. Join us immediately after the fight when Al and John Saraceno will join me for all the post-fight analysis. For now, Charlie Steiner, ESPN at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas.
Welcome back to ringside here in Las Vegas. Alex, over the years that we've been doing boxing together, we've had the chance to talk to Mike Tyson before. We've had him at ringside. We've had him at our ABC studios in New York. We've covered some of his fights, and you've known him for a long, long time. Now, since he's been out of prison, his interviews have been, I think, very few and far between. How'd you snag the guy, first of all?
Well, we asked him to do an interview, and he's nice enough to show up and do it.
Which you have to admit, it's rare.
He hasn't done a lot.
No.
It was interesting. We talked a little bit about a number of things, as you can imagine. I found him to be quite calm. He seemed to be more at peace with himself going into the getting ready for fight week. He did not have his game face on. He talked openly, and it was an interesting afternoon.
Was he by himself, or was there an entourage involved?
There was the minimum entourage. There was two co-managers, John Horn and Rory Holloway, and Don King, his promoter.
Well, as you can imagine, the fight world is abuzz about what's going to happen later tonight. This interview took place 9 days ago, and it took place right here in the MGM Grand upstairs in Mike Tyson's room.
Mike, first talk about what it was like the first time you got back in the ring to box. What did you expect, and what did it turn out to be like?
Well, you know, first I thought I was going to do very well because I was doing my road work and I was hitting the bag pretty well, and I was doing great floor work. But once I got in the ring, of course, it was different. You know, it was a different outcome because I believe you have different muscles, and besides that, it's a different sight when you box in the ring and then when you're doing a floor exercise. But, you know, I went through a week of disastrous sparring. After that, basically all came together.
You're a student of boxing history. Some people think that Ali lost to Frazier because he came back too soon, came back too quickly after that longer layoff. Do you take any lesson from Ali's experience? How many tune-ups do you think you'll need before you're ready to fight for the title?
Well, I'm just going to listen to my trainers and my managers, and I'm going to go gradually. I'm no fool, you know what I mean? Like you said, I've learned from the past, and I'm not interested in just jumping in there for the big cookies. I don't care if people say, fight this guy, fight this guy. The main objective is to be the champ and the best fighter in the world. In order for me to do that, I have to do it on my time basis.
People sort of take it for granted that you're going to be champion again. Is that a danger that...
I don't take anything for granted.
Do you think you're going to be champion again?
Oh, I know that, but I just don't take it for granted. I know no one's going to give me anything.
There were times in your life when you were out of control and you were pursued.
You know what I mean?
Do you think you're more in control right now, Mike?
More or less, yes, I'm in control. But you have to understand the state that I was living a profligate lifestyle because you have to understand I was just a child. And you know what I mean? I've been successful as a fighter ever since I was a teenager, young kid. I've always been successful.
Do you think becoming the youngest heavyweight champion of all time actually was a bad thing? It was just too much too soon, too much pressure?
I think, you know, I think basically, I think that's phenomenal. I think that's was a great accomplishment in the history of sports. I just took it for granted. I never really thought about it since I've been away. I never really knew, being 29, I never really knew how young 20 is. 20 is an extremely young boy.
Mike Tyson, the 29-year-old man, talking to Mike Tyson, 20-year-old boy or kid, or what advice do you have for that person? What advice do you have for somebody who's about to enter into the kind of life that you dealt with?
Yes, always remember to take people who are good to you and keep them close to you and don't let them go. Very difficult to keep good people that truly cares. You know what I mean? A lot of times we get caught into the hogwash that goes on in our life, and we give them the Buddhas. We do things to them they can never forgive. And out of the dignity of being a man or a woman, they can never come back to us. But what we did was not necessarily out of hatefulness or something, but it was just totally out of ignorance. I believe we're more responsible now. You know what I mean? It's very difficult being responsible after living like I said before, a very profligated type of lifestyle, reckless, and it's very difficult. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's an ongoing process in trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean? You can't take a guy and put him that's been living a certain way for the rest of his life and say, for 3 years you studied living this way, and you go to suddenly you got to make a transformation and to live in the right way. It's very difficult. It can be done, but it's very difficult, and I'm having a difficult time, but it's going to be done.
Well, Mike Tyson talks about transformations. Obviously, Alex, those happen in his personal life, and everybody deserves a second chance, and we hope Mike makes the most of his out of the ring. Everybody wants to know about in the ring here tonight. First of all, 4 years, a long time to be away from the ring.
Yeah, and a different kind of layoff than Muhammad Ali. We compared Muhammad Ali's comeback to Mike's in that interview. But Muhammad Ali was able to spar. He had exhibitions. He could go into a gym. Mike Tyson had none of those. There was none of those facilities in the prison in which he was, and he really starts cold. And you heard him talk about having 1 week of horrific sparring, and he was shocked about it. And I think that it's hard for people to understand this because Peter McNeely is a very, very lowly regarded opponent. But I guarantee you Mike Tyson is nervous about this fight tonight. He very much wants to look good, and he wants to prove himself.
For all that hard exterior that he shows the world, he couldn't be human and not be nervous about tonight. Now, you mentioned Peter McNeely. If he is as inept as everyone leads us to believe that he is, does Mike Tyson learn anything? Does he accomplish anything?
Doesn't learn anything. I just think he takes the first step in a process that will lead a year or a year and a half down the road to fighting meaningful opposition. He's not going to do it right away. He actually, you could hear, I think, in his voice in that talking about Ali, he was not going to make the same kind of mistake Ali made. He thinks Ali lost his title by jumping back in too quick against Frazier, and he's not going to make that same mistake. I think he's going to take his time.
Well, there is nothing quite like a Tyson fight and a Tyson happening. This town is busting at the seams. Celebrities of galore here tonight. Going to be fun.
It will be.
However long it lasts.